first one that I read was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. She is my most favorite author because of the genre, and I felt that her works are really good, especially because of the Akotar series. But I was thoroughly disappointed with this book, but I think it has to do with how it was introduced to me. It was introduced to me as a standalone, and I just feel that because it's a part of a series, it cannot be read as a standalone. In the introduction, there were a few gaps, not that many, but in the ending, it just didn't feel as fulfilling as it feels every time you finish a book. I rated the book a 3 out of 5. The book just felt slow. The plot wasn't as nice to be reading it as a standalone, and I would love to read the whole series in sequence. And right now, I just feel I'll not dive into that for now. This book features an assassin called Selena Sardothian, the Crown Prince Dorian, and the captain of the guard, who is Keol. So the book starts with Selena being in jail because of the crimes that she committed, and the introduction didn't feel as empty because I think they recollected the story from the previous book a bit. So it did not feel as empty, but I just still felt that a lot has happened with the character that I did not know about, and there were some background stories with the character and her previous lovers that just felt that, I have no context to this, so why is it being introduced in this book? And that was because it cannot be read as a standalone, and you have to follow the character's whole story from starting to the finish. And right now, after finishing this, I just felt that I had just jumped in between the book. So yeah, that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I also read it as an ebook. The next book that I read was a book that I was excited about throughout the whole year, and it was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. But as much as I looked forward to it, it was quite disappointing. I rated this book also a 3 out of 5 stars. The book just felt very slow. The plot was nice but felt repetitive, did not meet expectations, and was not as good as the previous books. When Iron Flame came out, I was as excited as I was for Onyx Storm, but Iron Flame just had so much more, I feel, story part to it, and this book was just revolving around characters that I did not want to know more about. And even though they might prove to be important in future books, it just felt that the time was passing very slowly while I was reading this book. The way how the book ended was so much more dramatic than the whole of the book. So I would say about 85% of the book is just slow, and then the ending portion of the book is where it gets so much more interesting because of the characters. And one more thing that I felt was that Force Wing and Iron Flame had continuous character introductions, and in Onyx Storm, it was just believed that we would remember all of the characters' names, but there are so many characters that I had to go back and revisit which character was being talked about here, because they were just being suddenly named out of the blue. And yeah, there are so many characters, that's why you can't keep a track, and I just felt that it is getting messy because of this. And in this book also, there were many new characters that were introduced, and yeah, it just felt very messy because of the amount of characters in this book. The next books that I read were like a part of a series, so I read them back to back, and I was just, I don't even know, but I was just in a haze while reading these books, and it is like I just did not know what was going on around me. And these books were Binding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I have heard so much about this book because of it being on my Instagram. So there are two main characters who are Shannon Lynch and Johnny Kavanagh. I just wanted to know more about Shannon Lynch as a character, so I wanted to read this book. The characters are pretty cute, and let me just start with the first book. So, in the first book, it is just about Shannon and Johnny being introduced to each other and then just suddenly having a very close bond and understanding each other, and then Johnny helping Shannon out with things, but then Shannon still ending up in situations where he can't help her. So it ended with that sort of scenario. I'm trying to keep it with as less spoilers as I can. And in the second book, it starts with Shannon in being such a situation, and then Johnny comes and then he tries to help her, but again, he can't because of reasons. And then Shannon is just becoming more and more weaker, and she is just having a crisis of herself, and then her family is also getting weaker, and it's a mess. The first book was very mentally like not that toll taking, but the second book was very much toll taking, and I had to continuously take breaks while reading the second book because of how much of an emotional toll it was taking on me to just think about what Shannon was going through. Joey and Eve Malloy were my favorite characters. I think I pronounced Eve right. If I did not, please comment down below. I have written this journal entry after I finished reading this series, and I've written the characters are cute, but why is it so long? I hated the banter as much as I loved it, and it made me emotional as well. But yeah, it was just super stretched out. I'm still thinking of continuing further with the series, but I most probably will not. I absolutely love Joey Lynch and I want to give him a hug. And Johnny's parents, especially his mom and dad, are the best to happen to both the main characters. There is a lot of friendly banter in these books, and this is part of the reason why they are so lengthy, because they have just given as much importance to the side characters as the main characters, and it is just interesting that we're kind of living the life with them, but I also kind of am not curious about that, and I'm curious as to what will happen with the main characters. As much as I love the banter, I also hated it because of how much it was making the process of finishing these books more elongated. I would give both of these books another 3 out of 5 stars. I am still thinking of reading the further series, especially Joey Lynch's books. I think it's Saving Six and Redeeming Six. I just feel that he's a very strong character, but I know the author and I know there must be some sort of elongation process she must have used in his book as well. That is why I am going to procrastinate reading his books, but let's hope that I read them by the end of the year so that I don't have to think about it. Now, the last book that I read this month was All About Love New Visions by Bell Hooks. This book is so amazing. I absolutely loved reading it, but I had to stretch out the reading process throughout the month because this is a very new genre for me, and just reading it took a lot of my thinking span also. So I just did not want to, half-heartedly read it. Plus, consuming it definitely, made it seem much more difficult for my brain to process. I just felt that I read this book at the right time in my life, and it just brought a lot of perspective to me. The perspective that was introduced by bell hooks in this book was also very well researched. It still left room for your own opinions, for you to have your own thoughts and like compare the two. She brought a definition of love which was very transformative and made it seem serious, which I think it is. There was also quite a bit of repetition, and honestly, it just helped explain the point better. So, there are a lot of chapters in this book, and in every chapter, she just tries to validate the point that she previously made by attaching or associating with the examples that she has provided in the future. So it just forms like a chain of thought, which I really liked, and it just helped me understand what she was saying very much, easily. So the book also talks about why the relationships that ended had to end, and why the relationships that you have currently matter to you, or how you are dealing with them, how you see people, and how there can be some people who you should not, be dealing with as seriously as you are. So yeah, it just brought again a perspective that I did not see things with before. But yeah, now I am definitely opening my eyes a bit more and trying to analyze my actions in relationships, especially. I highly recommend this book to people who are just struggling to define their actions or thoughts when it comes to any sort of relationship. You will feel so much better. I give this book a 4 out of 5. Definitely loved reading it. The only part that I felt that was, kind of not for me was when she introduced the concept of spirituality and religion, and just associating religion or your beliefs with love, because I don't believe in God or religion, so I don't really associate myself with that, and that's the only gap that I felt there was in this book for me. Even if you are from a different religion, you would have similar ideas towards the deity that you worship or something that you look up to. So yeah, it's good for that. But yeah, that's the only gap that I felt was there in this book for me. So that's all for today's video. I really hope you like it. You can comment down below if you have any book recommendations for me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my videos and my channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.